Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about lazy perfectionism and the dark sides of idealism. And to sort of explain what I'm talking about, I'm going to give a quick definition. So to me, the term lazy perfectionism refers to somebody who's an idealist, who has a sort of image of how they want their life to be or an outcome of a certain project that they idealize and that they want to strive towards, but instead of striving towards it, they either over-rely on the emotion from the daydream and just, don't do anything, or they begin to work towards that thing and then just give up because it's hard and because they realize they aren't as skilled as they thought they would be or as much as they'd like, and instead of working through it all, they just kind of give up. And I'm going to be getting into the reasons why these two things occur in a second, but first I want to say, the whole cliche is that nothing's ever perfect. Like, things are, there are obviously masterpieces in the world, and, if you're lucky, you might be able to create one or two. But for the most part, the bulk of everything you put out is not going to be perfect. It's like the idea that poetry is never finished. Like, the poet has to come to the point where they're like, all right, it's not perfect, but I guess I have to publish it because it's been a long time and this is as close as I can get, and then they let it free and everyone else really likes it, but then the poet's always like, oh, if only I could just tweak this little thing, or this doesn't exactly represent what I wanted it to, and it's never really done. It just, you have to come to a point where you're like, all right, this is the most that this certain project is going to go and I just have to put it out there. But in order to do that, you have to work towards those goals. You have to work towards the ideals that you set up and not, give up immediately. And then eventually, you might actually hit perfection now and again. Starting a YouTube channel for me is really difficult because I'm one of these idealistic people. I have this vision for how I want my channel to be, and and every single mark it just doesn't hit. I don't look the way I want, I can't communicate the way I want, I don't have a little studio here. It takes time and effort, and you just kind of have to humiliate yourself publicly over and over and over again until you sort of build something up for yourself, and it's a really difficult thing to learn. So if you start working towards these goals and don't give up early, you could, still achieve great things. But the other thing that lazy perfectionists fall into is never starting in the first place. And a lot of people refer to the term maladaptive daydreaming. It's where you kind of create this fantasy life and you're over attached to that, fantasy life and the emotions that you get secondhand from that, to the neglect of your real life. And I think an issue that perfectionists have is they see things as perfect and they don't want to start because they don't want to mess up, but they see things as perfect and they still get kind of a little dopamine hit of being I created this thing even if it's just in my mind, and I could still kind of feel the way that it would feel if I achieved it. And then instead of starting, whether it's from fear or whatever else, you just don't, and you over-rely on that image. But the problem with this over time is that the more you neglect working towards the things that you idealize, the less those idealizations occur, because your brain starts to realize that hey, this doesn't actually do anything for me. The further you get from achieving your goals, the more complacent you get. There's this weird double bind that occurs with perfectionists and idealists, and I'm going to get into that right now. So there's this sort of double bind that occurs when it comes to either pursuing an ideal or neglecting it and just focusing on the fantasy. I call it the shitty double bind because both options kind of suck. The first choice you can make when you're confronted with a desire or goal is to just not follow it and just, maybe indulge yourself in the fantasy of it, but then return back to your regular life. But this just makes you feel shittier because as time goes on, you're not living the life you want. You feel like your years are wasting away. And it eventually gets to the point where you can't even imagine goals for yourself anymore because it's proven itself to be a false lie. You've proven that you can't actually accomplish anything, and so you just become miserable. And I think we've all come across people like this before. I remember when I was in college, I was in the short film, and we were filming in an alley next to a bar because it was a bar fight scene. And this drunken guy stumbled in from the bar and he came up to all the film crew, all the actors while we're doing, our shooting, and he's like, "You guys are never gonna be anything, give up on your dreams, you guys suck," just shitting on everybody. And we were just really annoyed because we were trying to get the job done, and he's all like, "You're never gonna be anything, you're losers, you should give up film," random bullshit just from a stranger. But the thing is, when you put off your goals for that long to the point where you feel incompetent and incapable of achieving them, that's just what you do. You go and you try to put down everybody else in order to make yourself feel better, in order to know that everybody else is miserable and that nobody else can accomplish their goals either because you can't. And then the other half of the double bind is that when you actually work towards your goals, you still feel really fucking shitty because everything you do, you're failing over and over and over again. You're failing. You'll never hit that perfect image. You're always doing things wrong. Nothing's ever good enough, and that's just the way that it is. And when you do hit those moments of perfection, boy, are they fleeting. They do not stay, okay? That's just the way that it is. It doesn't stay. But the reason why working towards your goals is better than not, even though it's, they're both shitty and they both make you feel really bad, at least, for a bulk of it, is when you work towards your goals, that feeling of shittiness is it does taper off. At the beginning, it feels the worst because your tastes and your skills are at such a disconnect, but as time goes on, your skills go up, and of course, you know, your tastes go up too, but they do get closer, and you do hit moments of genius when you least expect it, and like, that's all fine and good, and you can only get there by working at it. And at the end goal, while the person who doesn't do anything is really shitty and is tearing everyone else down, the person who does work on things will have those moments of fulfillment, and at least they could, you know, feel like they're living out their purpose or whatever. An interesting thing that happens too when you start working towards your goals is your ideals might change, just like when you're just fantasizing about things, those daydreams change. But when your ideals change, they're often in alignment with skills that you've already gathered along the way to that goal. So then when you switch over, it's actually like you're not starting from the very beginning, like you already have skills behind you, and it's a lot easier. Another dark side of perfectionism, I think, is a fairly obvious one, and that's putting too much pressure on yourself. And I guess I sort of described this in terms of the double bind, but basically, even when you accomplish your goals, it's still easy to feel like you're never good enough, that you're never doing anything good enough and all of that. I think this is sort of a maladaptive trait that just stems from anxiety. Like, if you feel like you're worthless and stuff like that, and that's the narrative that you've set for yourself, no matter what you accomplish, it's never going to be good enough. Nothing's ever going to be, worthy enough or anything like that. You're always going to feel like a failure. And you're going to keep perpetuating that from yourself because it's what you're used to. And then, you know, other dark sides, workaholism, you know, neglecting all the other areas of your life just to like work towards this one goal, which can be really damaging depending on what your life is like. There are other, of course, dark sides like that. But I'm going to get into the last part of my video, which is about why idealism is even there in the first place. Like, where do these daydreams stem from? Like, what is the whole point of this? So there are a lot of sort of theories out there for where this sort of drive for perfection comes from. You know, you might think it's like implanted there by God, it might be your higher calling, it might be the universe, it might be just a biochemical reaction based on like your external environment and like your genetics. But me personally, I don't think that we choose to have the idealizations that we have. I think they're just sort of there, whether by random chance or like some sort of God, whatever it is, it's there. And I think it's kind of our duty to follow that, because I think when you don't follow what you want, it turns into just suffering. And I'm not talking about super materialistic goals. Like, yeah, we could say the drive to have like a mansion and a Porsche is because of, you know, American capitalism, if that's a society that you live in, mixed with like the evolutionary need for like, you know, security and respect from your community and all of that. But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like the lawyer whose whole family's telling him to be a lawyer, and now he's a lawyer, but really deep inside he wants to be a ballerina. Like that kind of goal. And to apologize in advance, I'm going to start sounding super religious, but I think that sort of drive that we have within ourselves is sort of what makes us, it's what makes us human, but it's also what makes us like godlike or whatever. It's what allows humans to create masterpieces that are just like surreal and like greater than human, like the Sistine Chapel. Or I mean, I have a whole playlist of songs that I think are absolute masterpieces where it's like blown away that like a human could have created this. And I think a lot of people, when they are, you know, creating these masterpieces or working towards their goals, it almost feels like they're a tool for some sort of higher power to like create whatever it is that comes out of them. Like they're not making it out of their own free will. Like it just sort of makes itself using your brain and your hands or whatever as a tool to like get that. And this is something too that sort of separates us from the animals. Like we have this sort of higher spiritual realm that we could tap into through artistic creation or other means. And I think the ultimate reason why that's all there is because it's the one thing that gives us purpose in life. Our lives are meaningless. They don't, you know, add up to anything. There's no point for us living here. We're all just kind of a result of the Big Bang or whatever, or if you have another belief, you're a result of whatever that is. But for the most part, we don't have a set out meaning, each of us, but we do have hints about what our lives could be. We do have some sort of drive towards something that's fulfilling, and that's what gives us purpose. And that's why it's so important not to neglect whatever it is that you have a drive for, because like I said, all it does is bring suffering to yourself because you're neglecting your meaning in life and you're just kind of like rotting away. I don't want to say like if you don't create anything you're worthless, because that's not what I mean, but I do know for myself personally, if I neglect the greater things that I know I can accomplish, that I know can improve the lives of other people, and instead I just, you know, I'm crying in bed all the time, like eating junk food and watching TV, it just makes me feel miserable. And that's my own personal experience, but I think for anybody with some sort of artistic drive or a drive to communicate with others or to change the world or whatever it is that you have, just to start a family, I think if you have that sort of vision internally and inherently, if you work against that, you're just going to be miserable. I don't know if we have free will in its whole sense, but I do think we have the free will to deny what we're supposed to do, and I think it just is it's better to just do what you gotta do, you know, like the shitty double bind. Like it's gonna suck for the bulk of the time trying to work towards perfection or work towards your ideals, But if you don't do it, you're just gonna end up miserable, so might as well take the other route, you know, suffer now, feel good later. So hopefully that was sort of a positive note to end everything on. I don't know if that made anybody feel better or not, but basically, yeah, the cons of idealism and perfectionism: pressure on yourself, never feeling good enough, the fact that it's very easy to not work towards your goals because it's difficult and scary, and you also get that secondhand high just from thinking about it, and you know, I'm sure there's a million other reasons, but basically that's why lazy perfectionism can be very damaging. I experience this all the time, trying to get over it. But yeah, that's my video. If you liked it, leave a thumbs up. It helps me with YouTube and all of that. Leave a comment if you're mad at me, if you think everything I said was dumb, or if you liked it or whatever, just leave a comment down below. Subscribe to my channel if you want more. Thank you for watching, and I will see you guys next time.